Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cohn Zone. We're the Cohns. That's Lowell Cohn, the original Cohn, the OC. I'm Grant Cohn, the baby Cohn, BC. And it's June 29th. It's right in the middle of the offseason, the dead period. We got a lot of dead period topics and a little bit of news. But we're going to start with our opinion of the most indispensable 49ers, one on offense, one on defense. This is my dad's idea. We had an editorial conference this morning, like good boys. Your mom would have been proud. The school teacher.
Yes, because we were prepared, but we didn't tell each other our picks. So may I go first?
Please do. Let's start with the most indispensable player on offense.
Trent Williams.
Oh, that's what I'm going to say. That's exactly what I'm going to say. Absolutely. No question about it. I think we did this last year and said Kyle Juszczyk, but Ross Dwelly's a good backup. They've won games without Kyle Juszczyk. The backup for Trent Williams just tore his ACL. So I don't know what they would do without that guy.
It's interesting that we both picked the left tackle. Now, let me say who we didn't pick, a quarterback.
Absolutely. In the past, the answer had to have been Jimmy Garoppolo, and the numbers bear it out. They're 22-8 with him. They're just freaking awful without him, but that was kind of a function of backups. Now they have the number 3 pick in the draft as this on the team, and Rosen, who was the number 10 pick. They have a lot of talent in that room. I think they might be able to win games without Jimmy now. Maybe.
Yeah, and they're assuming that Trey Lance, they're going to win a lot of games with him. We'll come back to him in a bit. Well, that's very interesting. We picked the same guy, and it's a very conservative pick, but I like it. Okay.
I think it's the right pick. Just other people we didn't pick. George Kittle. He's very important. He missed 8 games last year, but I think the left tackle is more important.
Yeah, and they can win without him.
I think they can.
They can win without him.
Yes.
Okay, tell me who your indispensable defensive player is.
Jason Verrett.
Ooh, I wasn't going to pick that.
You're going to go with Fred Warner?
Yeah, I was going to go Fred Warner or Nick Bosa, if he is Nick Bosa. But I like yours better. Tell me why yours.
Well, Bosa's a good pick, but they played all of last season without him and had the number 5 defense in the league. So I think there's some evidence that they can succeed without him. They haven't played a game without Fred Warner. He's never missed a game. He's been in the last 3 years. So who knows what their defense would look like without him. He's the leader, the quarterback. But Jason Verrett plays an extremely important position. He's very good at his job. And again, if he gets hurt, which he does sometimes, I have no idea who the backup is, like a rookie or something. So I think he's it's a depth thing like it is on offense with Trent Williams. There is just no backup for Jason Verrett, and he's so good. He transformed the defense last year.
I love your pick, and I didn't even think of that. I still want to stick with Fred Warner because I think they'd be in trouble without him.
Yeah.
So let's say co-indispensables. Can we live with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. As soon as I said Jason Verrett, I'm saying, wow, I'm not saying Fred Warner. It's a very easy argument to make for Fred Warner. He's the best player on the defense. Yeah, okay. So they're co MVPs.
I want to say before we move on to our next topic,
yes.
Do you see how Grant and I work out conflict? On a lot of shows, somebody has to win. I don't feel I have to beat my son, and I guess my son doesn't feel he has to make his old man look like a fool. It's nice to be able to resolve disagreements without being disagreeable. And that's
I agree. So I agree. Yeah, I agree.
And we've been that way our whole lives together.
Yeah, because I think what's more interesting is listening to someone else and being open-minded than just yelling at someone. People who you're talking and you can see the wheels spinning and all they're thinking about is what they're going to say next.
We know people like that.
Yeah, they're just not the most fun people to hang around. So we try to actually listen.
What's our next topic?
Okay. The latest on the quarterback competition. This was a little feature we started when you were in the rehabilitation facility for your back, where I would update you on news. There's not a lot of news going on with the Niners right now. And what I find is interesting is when news breaks, it's often from the NFL Network. Someone who lives in New York talking to someone in the 49ers and getting the inside scoop. And lately it's been Mike Garoppolo. And he's saying that Trey Lance is so impressive that they feel that they could win the division this year, even if he was inserted as the starter halfway through. And that if he really impresses in preseason and training camp, that they won't hesitate to make the switch before the season starts, which seems like a big narrative shift. And if this guy on NFL Network saying it, I assume he's not inventing this opinion, that he's hearing whispers. That's what I'm assuming. What do you think of this?
Well, here's what I think.
Yes.
I agree. I mean, if he's really good, he should probably take over the team. I'm saying by the bye week, and I don't even know when the bye week is. So I have no quarrel with what Garoppolo, however you pronounce it, reported. Good for him. Yeah. But here's what I want to say.
Sure.
He's been so impressive. When?
Exactly.
When the hell was he so impressive? Did they play a game? Maybe I missed. They had a whole season with him, and I missed it. Where is this? You saw 2 practices with him?
3. And he was not wearing pads in any of them.
Yeah. So how the hell can you be that impressive? Plus, he sailed some passes over the middle.
He certainly does. He does do that. Yes.
So either his information is wrong, and I give him credit, it's probably not, or people are telling him stuff that is based on a too limited of a sample and seems biased.
Right. Oh, what I take from this is what is like my read on where the Niners, where their mindset. When they drafted him, they were talking about sitting him for a long time, and that seemed kind of disingenuous, but it seemed like that's what they were telling themselves. And now that they've gotten a first impression of him, it seems like they want him to take the job. That doesn't mean he will. He has to go out and play very well, very, very well. But it seems like all of a sudden they're open-minded to the idea of starting a rookie this year, as long as he's good enough. And all I got to say is Kyle's done this before. He started RG3 in 2012 as a rookie, and he was the rookie of the year. So maybe there's confidence that they can do it again.
How did it work out for RG3?
Really good until he tore his ACL in the playoffs his rookie year.
Yeah, sure. And now he's a Hall of Famer, right?
He's so good, Dad. He's really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah, but so I want to just get to that. Trey Lance was really impressive when they had him for a minute, and they didn't even have a mini camp, so he couldn't be impressive in mini camp because they didn't have. I mean,
they didn't have that.
Have a mini camp.
Yeah,
that's just great. They didn't have a mini camp,
or a third week of OTAs. He couldn't be impressive in that because they canceled that too. Although they did both.
So, in other words, for the minute or two he was in Santa Clara, he was very impressive. Did it mean that he was breathing? Did it mean that he walked on 2 legs?
I think it means that he's obviously very athletic, but that he's very smart. And they keep saying he learned the whole offense. And I don't know, that they never said that about Jimmy. They always said Jimmy's like, he's almost there. He's getting there, a little bit more time. And there's the way they talk about the kid is that he's like picked up a foreign language in 2 months.
Okay, I'd like to actually see him play.
Fair enough.
With another team, you know what I mean? With this another team that came from another city. I'd like to see him play in one of those.
That reminds me, last year, Robert Saleh was talking about Jimmy Garoppolo in training camp, how much better he was and how he was really more decisive, making better decisions, more decisive. Then the next day, Kyle Shanahan comes out and we ask him, hey, Robert Saleh was really praising Jimmy Garoppolo yesterday, saying he's more decisive. Are you seeing that? And Kyle just kind of stands there and hesitates and goes, well, yeah, but he's facing the same defense every day. Let's see what he does against another defense. And week 1 against the Cardinals, he crumbled. So good point. Good point. Yeah. Let's see him in a different setting.
And you know what that also says to me? Not a lot of communication between Shanahan and Saleh.
No, Saleh went out there probably on his own thinking, I'm going to say something nice about our quarterback, pump him up, make him feel good. Kyle's like, what the hell are you talking about? I can't.
Undercut 2 people.
That's right. That's right. All right. Speaking of the Arizona Cardinals, you and I were on Amin's YouTube channel last night, and he asked us who the biggest threat to the 49ers is in the NFC West, and we had different answers. I said the Arizona Cardinals, which made you kind of drop your jaw for a second, because the Cardinals kind of stink, or they have the past few years. So would you like me to make a case real quick?
Yes,
okay.
I would.
Okay. The way I see them is they have an excellent roster. I don't know about their coach. They were about a 500 team last year, and they've improved their roster. The roster is so good because they have this Kyler Murray, the number 1 pick in the draft, who's on this rookie wage scale. He's pretty cheap. He's in the 3rd year of his career, and they've spent the money on everywhere else on the team. And they have JJ Watt, AJ Green. They have a bunch of players that are really good. If Kyler Murray takes a step like young quarterbacks usually do from year 2 to year 3, I think the Cardinals have the best roster in the division because they're not spending $27 million on a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, or, the Rams, who are still spending $24 million on Jared Goff. But I guess it really does depend on this coach, who I have very little confidence in.
Why do you have very little confidence?
Okay, so he runs a college-style offense. It's called the air raid offense, and it's been very successful in college. The guy who's famous for it is currently the head coach at Washington State, and his name, Mike Leach. He's probably a little younger than you. He's been doing it in college for a very long time. He's very creative. I get the feeling that this guy is just a younger knockoff version of Mike Leach. And if they wanted to get a good air raid offense, and they just hired the guy from Washington State. Instead, they hired the guy from Texas Tech, who never had a winning season at Texas Tech, even though he coached Patrick Mahomes. He couldn't win in college with Patrick Mahomes. So he has a real track record of like underperforming and being kind of weak. So that's a problem.
Okay, well, I see two problems with that.
Yes.
Thing. So I had said, I think the biggest competitor with the Niners in the NFC West is Seattle, because the Niners always beat the Rams. They always seem to be able to beat the Rams. And I was surprised when you said Arizona. So the coach, for starters. But here's the thing. You're making assumptions that the quarterback will make a big leap from season 2 to season 3. When I look at him, he's very little.
He's very little. Yes.
He has trouble throwing over the line. He has to run away to actually. Now, Russell Wilson does too, but this kid isn't Russell Wilson.
No.
Not yet. And also something you pointed out, in videos last season, he's a one-read guy.
Yes.
Am I misstating that?
No, he often misses wide, like doesn't see open receivers. He often.
Yeah. So let me say, I feel the burden of proof is on him. I mean, the quarterback's the most important position. I'm not sold on him, and I think he's going to lose them some games. I'm not sold on him just the way I'm not sold on the Baltimore quarterback.
Okay, the difference between the Baltimore quarterback and Kyler Murray is Kyler Murray was a top 10 pick in baseball too. He could have been an MLB outfielder. He has an amazingly strong arm, and Lamar Jackson has a functional arm. Yeah, I really think Kyler Murray, even though he's not like a refined quarterback and he's short, he might be the most athletic quarterback in the NFL. You can't catch him. He just runs in circles, and Nick Bosa falls on the ground, and you just can't catch him. And then he could throw 80 yards. He finally got rid of Larry Fitzgerald, who's old and slow, replaced him with AJ Green, who's kind of old too. I don't know. I think this team is going to be surprising. I feel like they underperformed last year. And what people don't realize about him is their defense is actually very, 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 very talented. They have J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, Budda Baker, who's the best safety in the NFL, 2 first-round picks at inside linebacker. They actually have a very good roster. I don't know if the coach knows what to do with it.
Okay, here's what I think. Yeah. I think in the future there's a bet there. I think when the season starts, of course I'll forget because I'm old.
It's a good bet.
But when the season starts, we'll define that into some sort of a bet about Arizona. Does that seem fair?
Absolutely. That's how you and I settle our disagreements. Instead of like arguing it over, let's just put a bottle of wine on it. End of story.
I think so.
It's more civil.
Yeah. And by the way, we're going out to dinner together on Thursday night.
We absolutely are. With the great Everett Days, who I'm sure anyone who follows us on Twitter knows who he is. So Everett, if you're watching, can't wait. All right. This is a new one. This is my dad's idea. If you were talking to someone from Jacksonville or Nashville who's not a 49ers fan and not following this team closely at all, how would you explain the 49ers to a non-49ers fan?
Yeah, they're just another team out there, like the Raiders or just a West Coast team. What would you say they do and their personality is? Iggy, you're better at this than I am. Would you mind starting?
Okay, well, they're a team that's dominated by its head coach. They have a young head coach who's very creative, and he has all the power in the organization. He hired the GM. He makes most of the personnel decisions. He is very exciting to watch. His offense will produce big runs, big throws every game, really nice highlights. Very good. It's a pleasing brand of football to watch. It's also philosophically sound. They run the ball well. They set it up with play action. And they play very good defense too. It's like they have a good formula. They have good players, but they have some weird quirks. Like they always get hurt. 8 seasons in a row, they get hurt. And they've had 4 winning seasons since 2003. So while they always seem to show promise and people seem to expect growth from them, they have no track record of success with this team the last 20 years. And then the last thing that people may not know about the 49ers is they don't even play in San Francisco. They play basically in San Jose, in a place that pretty bad stadium. We're going to talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that soon. Iggy, I'm going to keep asking you questions.
Sure.
You've done a beautiful job up to so far, as we would say. Could you sort of be more specific and characterize what kind of offense do they use?
Sure. A lot of people think that Kyle Shanahan has brought a return to the West Coast offense for the 49ers. He hasn't. It looks like the offense that Bill Walsh ran because the quarterback's under center and there are 2 running backs in the backfield. There's a fullback. It looks like the old structure. But what Bill Walsh did was he would pass to set up the run. He would come out the game with drop back passes, 3-step drop, 5-step drop, 7-step drop. That's what it was all about. This is the opposite philosophy. The philosophy here is you run the ball to set up the pass. You don't want to drop. They don't want to drop back very much at all. It's all about handing off and faking handoffs, running and play action. And what Kyle Shanahan and his dad do better than probably anyone ever is making the run plays look exactly like the play action plays. So as the linebackers are trying to diagnose what's happening, really until the quarterback takes the ball and starts running the other way with it, no one knows what's happening. There are very few indicators because the offensive linemen block the same exact way on the run plays and the play action plays. It's really terrific, and it's what creates the big plays.
And you like it. You like that offense?
Absolutely. It's really, really good. And you've seen it. A lot of teams use it now. The Rams use it. The Seahawks just fired Little Schottenheimer and hired a guy from the Rams, so they're going to be doing it. You know, if the Cardinals flop this year with this roster, I wouldn't be surprised if they fire Cliff Kingsbury and hire someone from the Rams or the Niners to do something. It's very much the in vogue way of doing offense.
Okay. You did a beautiful analysis on the offense. Do it for the defense now.
Okay. The defense is very interesting. It's a first-year defensive coordinator, DeMeco Ryans, who was groomed by Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh started as a very vanilla defensive coordinator. Rush 4, play zone coverage. That's what we're going to do. And it was effective at times early on, and he evolved into someone who would do whatever it took to win that week. He was much more like Belichick by the end than Pete Carroll, who is where he learned under. So they had a genius at defensive coordinator. He's gone. And now we don't know what their identity is on defense at all right now. The guy, DeMeco Ryans, says he wants to be an aggressive defense. Well, every coordinator says that. We don't know what that means. We do know about their players. They have a middle linebacker, Fred Warner, who is the smartest, best middle linebacker in the game. They're very invested in their defensive line. They're really structured like a 1997 defense where you build it all up front and you bring in free agents who are about 30 years old to play cornerback, and you don't spend too much money on the back end, which is usually it's a little old school because so many wide receivers who are great right now, so many spread out offenses. You need people who can cover them, but the Niners are built more the way defenses were when John Lynch was playing in 1998. It's a good defense, though.
Would you say it's a hard-hitting defense?
I would say it's a hard-hitting defense. Absolutely. They have a mantra: all gas, no brakes, and they fly around. Sometimes they miss assignments. Sometimes they get injured playing too hard. Sometimes they get injured in practice, but they are a very hard-hitting defense, yes.
I would conclude my thoughts by saying I find Kyle Shanahan's Niners interesting and pleasurable to watch.
Yes.
I like to watch them.
Yes.
Now, let me refine that. I'm not joking around now, but Mike Singletary, Tom Sula, the joke Chip Kelly, mm-hmm. I found them agonizing to watch. Mm-hmm. Iggy, we'd be at games and it would be like, this is awful. It's like reading a bad book. It's like, yeah. But I don't feel that way about Shanahan. It's a good book.
Yes.
Sometimes he has chapters that don't work out well, and certainly he doesn't have good final chapters. But
Yes.
I find his team very pleasurable to watch, and that's a nice feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually got to say, his offense is much more pleasurable to watch than Harbaugh's. Greg Roman's.
Yes.
Greg Roman's run game was cool, but so is Shanahan's. And Greg Roman's passing game, his play, he had no idea about how to structure a play action game, and he still doesn't over in Baltimore. So yeah, I would say that's one reason that people like Kyle Shanahan is it's just aesthetically pleasing what he puts on the field every time, even if they lose.
That's right. I like what you said, aesthetically pleasing, and that would matter to you and me.
Yes, it would, and it matters to the fans. I mean, if you're going to be a 500 team, or you're not going to win all the time, at least have big plays to George Kittle and big runs by Raheem Mostert. It's exciting, and it's really good for fantasy football. A lot of people play that game, and the Niners players always produce. So I think Kyle Shanahan has a lot of fans in that sense. He makes people money.
Okay, what's our next topic?
All right, hold on. We got a question real quick from Marcus. He says, do you think Jimmy G will be asked by Shanahan or have any say about whether Lance is ready to start? And if so, will he be honest?
Oh, I don't think he'll be asked. I don't think coaches
will be told.
Players.
No, he'll be told. All right. There was a very interesting video on YouTube that I just saw saying that Levi's Stadium is the worst of the new billion-dollar NFL stadiums. It's not exactly new. It's been there for 10 years, almost 10 years. But the video's new, and it made a lot of interesting points. Did you check out the video?
I did. Iggy, I have a question about it. Who did the video?
I'm not sure. I should know that. But check it out search it for it on YouTube. It's terrific. I'll put it in the description later.
It was very good.
Yes.
So it's saying it's one of the worst new stadiums. I want to back up a little bit.
Yeah.
That's hard to be one of the worst new stadiums because they're all bad.
Yes.
You know, I'll tell you, the one in Arizona is not that bad.
No, it's not. It looks like a toaster, but it's not that bad.
It looks like a toaster. You can put a bagel in there and put an extra. Yeah.
I like the one in Seattle.
I do. Hey, I'll tell you another monstrosity, Dallas.
Yeah. Oh, it's a monstrosity. Yes.
It's a monstrosity, Iggy.
Yes, it is. But the thing about the Santa Clara one is it's not even a monstrosity. It's just like generic. It looks like scaffolding.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. Let's say something. I'll go first if you don't mind. Some things that we feel it falls short. I'm going to say where it falls short. It's not in San Francisco. I mean,
it's not even close to San Francisco.
Excuse me. I know people say, well, the New York teams are in New Jersey. They're right across the Hudson River. You could swim across.
That's
and you
true.
can certainly see the Empire State Building right there.
Yep.
So don't tell me that. It's really far from San Francisco. Now, the other one, New England is very far from Boston, but they don't call themselves Boston. They call themselves New England. And a lot of the teams fly into Rhode Island.
That's true. Yeah.
Providence, Rhode Island.
That's true. Yeah.
So they don't pretend to be a Boston team. This pretends to be a San Francisco team. Whenever it's on TV, they always show the Golden Gate Bridge. Like the Golden Gate Bridge has anything to do with Santa Clara.
Yeah.
So for me, right away, it's a shanda that it's down there. And here's what I'm going to predict. After I'm dead, long after I'm dead, they're going to move back to San Francisco, and it's going to be a whole big thing. We want to bring it back to our roots. You can hear it, right, Iggy?
Oh, yeah. There's no question they're going to do that. It's a very, very unpopular stadium. What's going to happen is as more and more stadiums get built, it's going to look more and more ridiculous. Like they built this 10 years ago when it was the only new stadium in California. So they put themselves in a position to be able to host Super Bowls, which is what they want. Dad, you think they're going to ever host another Super Bowl? I don't. I mean, because now you got a state-of-the-art place in LA. You got a state-of-the-art place in Vegas. They're going to put it in Santa Clara and do that stupid thing where they had shuttling people back and forth from downtown San Francisco to Santa Clara. I predict they will never have another Super Bowl in that stadium.
I say it depends on how much juice the York family has in the league, because I think that's what's important. And I don't know how much juice they have.
Okay,
I
got more.
Yeah, tell me, and then I'll go.
The big one is that there's no shade in that stadium.
Right.
They took the design that they were going to do. They originally were going to have that in Candlestick. The original idea in the 90s was to build at Candlestick, and they could never work it out. They took the same design, moved it down to Santa Clara, didn't realize that it's way hotter down there. There's no shade in that stadium. And what happens is the day games, you roast like the LA Coliseum. And the thing is, the Niners were very defensive about this at first. People were complaining. People weren't even sitting out in the stands, and like privately, what members of the PR staff would say is, man, these guys are so soft out here in California. What about open air stadiums in the Carolina Panthers have an open air stadium? It's hot and humid out there. You don't hear anyone complaining out there. Well, in 2015, at a preseason game against the Broncos, a guy at Levi Stadium had a heat stroke and died. So what they do now is they don't really play day games at Levi Stadium in September anymore. They usually start off on the road. And when they come back, they have night games until later on in the year because they created this problem. So how about that?
I didn't realize that, Iggy. So they try to keep it away from, because September is so hot in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
So they try to keep it away.
This year they're starting in Detroit. Then they go to Philly and come back for a night game against Green Bay.
Interesting. So their home opener is the third week of the season.
Right. Absolutely. And they want it that way. And so they often will start in 2019, they had back-to-back road games to start the season as well. Same idea. Avoid this. And there's no solution, Dad. They can't put any shade. All they can do is lower the water price.
For bottled water. And they can't put stuff up because the airport is so close.
Right.
They put it in a very vulnerable place. In the video, it says sometimes the pilots get a little confused by the lights over there.
That's right. So they put it in a place that was very convenient for them because it's right next to their practice facility, but it's inconvenient for everyone else. Literally everyone else.
Yeah. Also, staying with how hot it is, some of the rich people, there's private clubs at the stadium. So, Iggy, we've been at games. Sometimes you look at the sunny side, there's no one there because they're in the private clubs. And they end up watching the game on television, even though they're at the stadium.
Yeah, the video made the point that the entire stadium is catered to rich people. The lower bowl is the biggest lower bowl in the NFL, which means they're trying to force you to spend a ton of money to watch the game. The upper deck is really small, which means there's not a lot, and it's completely exposed to the sun. So it's just really was built for the richest people with them in mind. And what's funny is it's not the kind of place that would appeal to the richest people like LA's Coliseum is, Dallas's Coliseum is, Vegas's Coliseum is. This place just looks like an incomplete bit of scaffolding that they're going to probably tear down in 15 years.
Another thing that I don't think we should pass over is the grass.
Oh, absolutely not.
Could you talk a little about the grass?
It's awful. It took them years to get grass that was like not a joke. For years, they had people slipping on that field, and they still do. I don't know but it's like the most basic thing about a football field is the grass. They can't get that right either. Apparently, the grass at Candlestick was much better.
I don't know how good the grass at Candlestick was because it used to come up in clumps. So let's not give Candlestick sucked. So let's not give it any credit. We're just talking about this state-of-the-art stadium that they can't even get the grass right. And that used to drive Harbaugh crazy.
Yes. It doesn't seem like they actually have a home field advantage. It's so hot. The people don't sit in the seats. They go inside. Exactly. And it's a relatively quiet stadium. And what's funny about it is it was built after the one in Seattle. Like, how did you see the one in your division and be like, let's make one that's way worse? That's what we're going to do. And the thing that's amazing about Seattle is not only is it pretty, it is pretty. And not only is it downtown, which is nice, it's engineered to contain the noise and actually have it reverberate, which gives you more of a home field advantage. It's pretty genius and it works. The Niners is as open as possible with gaps all around and it just dissipates. I don't know what they were thinking.
I want to just compare it to Seattle. Iggy and I would stay at this one particular hotel downtown, which is a hell of a nice hotel. Mm-hmm. And on the morning of the Sunday game, we would walk to the stadium.
Yeah.
Past Pioneer Square. It's all downhill walk. It's really nice.
It's fun.
Even an old guy like me, it didn't make me tired. It's a downtown stadium.
Yeah.
There's all bars around there and people having a good time, as opposed to they put this thing where it's in the middle of by railroad tracks. It's in the middle of nowhere. That just kills me.
Yeah, if you want to take public transportation from Oakland to or San Francisco to Santa Clara, what do you got to do? From Santa Clara, you got to take Caltrans. From San Francisco, you got to take Caltrans down and then transfer over to the that little light rail. Or from the East Bay, what would you have to do? You'd have to take Amtrak and then transfer over to that little. No, it's not very convenient. So yeah, I think they're going to move in about 10 to 15 years, and I just don't know where they're going to go. Haven't they already built up Candlestick again?
Oh, that's over with. Yeah,
I can put it at Key.
I'm going to say one other thing I don't like about it, and this is really not relevant. So this is just me kvetching. The press box.
Oh yeah.
Here's what first of all, it's a very nice press box.
It's big.
I don't want to, it's a nice eating area. All of the food is, I don't think is that good, but what do you care? But it's so high up. It's the 8th floor.
Yeah. And you're way in the end zone.
Yeah.
So like when they're at the other side of the field, it's like, I guess I'll just watch on television.
Iggy, what used to kill me, and maybe I'm wrong and maybe it's different. The best seats, the PR staff had the best seats.
No question about it. There's about
right?
Yeah, no, the PR staff has this row of seats in the press box that's like right on the 50-yard line down to the 20. And then the media has to sit in the end zone because they're less important than the PR staff.
But I'm not making that up. I used to look and think, they're not covering the game.
No.
I'm covering the game.
Yes.
Maddie is covering the game. Iggy's covering, right?
Yes.
How did these guys get there? So that's not the stadium. That's the philosophy of the team. One other thing I want to say, now that I saw it, and this person made the case that it's the worst of the new stadiums. I hadn't really thought about the topic, but it's kind of a juicy topic. And if it's true, it doesn't surprise me.
Right.
Because the Yorks, and I'm talking about John, Jed, and Denise, the Bartolo.
Jingleheimer Schmidt, yes.
They got a lot of things wrong.
They do.
And part of it may be that they're not the most generous people in the world.
No, they did. I don't understand how they spent $1.3 billion on Levi Stadium. Where'd all the money go, Dad? Where did all the money go?
I don't
get it.
I don't know.
I don't know. The other thing about it, I'm not a big fan of the new stadium's all of a ton of glass. You notice that? Like Chase Center is just all glass.
I never will see Chase Center.
The one in the Raiders Stadium is all glass. The LA one is all glass. Maybe the Niners could use some glass because they just got a bunch of white pipes everywhere. It looks very strange. It looks terrible. It looks really bad from the outside. I don't know what it is.
It looks like where we sit and where Olio's looks like an apartment house.
Yeah, it looks like an apartment house that hasn't been finished. NorCal Refrigeration and HVAC says, does Lowell believe in the Santa Clara curse?
I believe in the York curse.
There you go. Michael Jolly says, I'm flying in from Florida for the Packers game. I'll teach you Barry boys about heat. It'll be a night game. But yeah, you can tell us. That was the PR staff's attitude. Was like, man, these guys are so soft. Everyone's complaining. What about people in the South?
Yeah, blame the customer. You want to blame the customer.
And then a guy died. So good. Jordan Rinaldi said, is that a competitive advantage to have home games pushed off until the end of the season? Is it a competitive? Not if you start the season 0-2 because you started on the road.
Yeah, really?
I mean, the stats about teams that start 0-2. It's not good. All right, let's move on. All right. Off-season topic. This was one of mine. The most underrated 49ers player of all time. And given that our timeline pretty much starts with Bill Walsh. This is subjective. This is subjective. This is the first person that comes to your head and make a case.
Okay. Jeff Garcia.
Okay.
He suffered because he came after Joe Montana and Steve Young. And what quarterback is going to look good after that? All right. But in fact, he was I'm saying not a good player. He was a hell of a player.
Yes.
For example, Iggy, he was a better quarterback than Alex Smith.
Yes, absolutely.
You agree, right?
No question. He went to like 3 straight Pro Bowls. He was in the conversation for best quarterback in the league. Only person in front of him was like Brett Favre and Kurt Warner at the time.
Yeah. He was he could run the offense. He was a very serious quarterback.
Yeah.
He could run the offense, but when things went to hell, he was even better.
Yes, a chaos
He was
quarterback.
like Russell Wilson.
Yes.
He had guts. He had ability. And I want to say something. He really learned his craft.
Yes, he did.
He went to Canada, and he was good in Canada.
Yes, he was.
He wasn't, he wasn't too proud to go to Canada.
Right.
He was the kind of guy, whatever it takes.
Absolutely.
Whatever it takes.
Yep. That's a great call. And the Niner fans didn't really appreciate him at the time. They ran him out of town, but he's definitely they haven't had a quarterback as good as him since.
One reason they didn't appreciate him is because that nut, Terrell Owens, was always putting him down.
Yep.
And here you have the best receiver on the team, maybe the best player on the team, running down the quarterback, and it's hard for the quarterback. That was Dennis Erickson was the coach during that.
Oh, it was Mariucci.
That should never have. You can't allow that. You can't allow that. And that's another reason his stock. I'm talking about Garcia. His stock is not that high. But Iggy, again, earlier in our broadcast, I said Kyle Shanahan's offense is pleasurable to watch. Mm-hmm. Garcia was pleasurable to watch.
Yeah, I remember Ira used to call him a chaos quarterback. Now the term is off schedule, and that's I think why the Niners drafted Trey Lance is he's supposed to be able to do stuff like this, like what Russell Wilson does, and Jeff Garcia was one of the originals.
Chaos is a better phrase than off schedule.
Yeah. Yes,
off schedule is off-putting.
It's off-putting. All right, I got one. This is from a little earlier, although this guy played with Jeff Garcia. Garrison Hurst. This was back when I was a 49ers fan. I was a big fan in the 90s during the Steve Young era. And the way I remembered it was my first year of consciousness watching the team. They won the Super Bowl. They had Ricky Waters. He was a really good running back. Then they lost him, and he went to Philly, I want to say. And they didn't really replace him for years. They had like Derek LaVille and non-running backs, non-starters. And they lost to the Packers a bunch. And then they got Garrison Hurst, who I'd never heard of, but had bounced around the league, was the number 3 pick in the draft. And as soon as they got him, I mean, all of a sudden he ran for like 1,500 yards in a season. They beat the Packers in the playoffs. No one talks about his performance in that game. Everyone talks about Terrell Owens' catch, but he ran for 120-something yards in that game. Then the next game, he blew out his ankle in the first play against the Falcons. Had he not done that, who knows? They might have won the Super Bowl that year. Missed 2 years, came back, had another 1,200-yard season. I think actually at his best, he was just as good as Frank Gore, who is the greatest running back in franchise history. Hurst was on the team for 7 years, played for 5. Hell of a player.
I think he was faster than Frank Gore.
Yep.
And more elusive, bigger, more elusive. Frank Gore was great, but I would agree with you. And I'd say I didn't know Garrison Hurst very well. When he was on the team, I don't think I appreciated him the way I should have. And I'm going to add one other thing. He was a good teammate. I know that players admired him and liked him. And that's important, as opposed to Terrell Owens, who was a problem.
Right. Absolutely.
Who was a problem. They liked Garrison Hurst. I know that. When he got hurt, I know the players were extremely upset.
Absolutely. I remember listening to Steve Young on the radio when he got hurt and saying, we had no chance without Garrison Hurst. And if he had stayed healthy, we could have won the Super Bowl.
He said that?
Yes. That's what I remember at the time. Yeah.
I like that call of Garrett. I think we came up with 2 pretty good guys, don't you?
I think so too. Similar era. And the thing with Garrison Hurst is no one talks about him. Like, he's forgotten. Didn't play as long with the Niners as Frank Gore did, but he had some great years. And I really think that at his best, he could compete with Frank Gore.
Iggy, when Dwight Clark was dying and a lot of people went to visit him in Montana, I saw a photo of it, and I think Garrison Hurst went.
Oh, wow.
I think
it's very interesting. I wonder if Dwight Clark signed him.
I don't know, but I certainly remember him being in the photo.
That's interesting. Sean has something to say. You know what I like about the Pigeons, Lambs, Aints, Cowgirls, and Green Lame? Absolutely nothing. Our Super Bowl loss would make other franchises' best years. Sean, I'm glad that you donated that and got that off your chest. It's great to talk to you. Great to see you as always, Sean. Say hello to your son for me. Kanan. All right, last topic. This was inspired by a meme last night. He started saying that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time, asserting it with confidence. And my dad said, hold on a second.
No, he kept saying also that Joe Montana is the second
best.
He kept saying that. And here, look at me. I'm 75 years old and I start arguing with a 13-year-old. I mean the dream. I know you're watching this. You are terrific. So I'm just not putting you down at all. I'm putting me down. I'm a schmuck. I start arguing with a 13-year-old. And so here's the thing.
You couldn't help yourself. You covered Joe. You have a lot to say here, and you made some great points. Let's lay them out.
Okay. Now I understand things going for Brady. He won 7 Super Bowls, Iggy?
7.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
He's also playing at 45 at an incredibly high level and just won a Super Bowl.
Yes.
Two
teams he's won with, not one. So that's a big two.
That's a big deal. Yep. And Tampa wouldn't have won without him.
No. Nope.
Now, why the Niners don't have him is a whole other subject, but you want to poke your eyes out that they,
yes.
Right?
Yes. Trying to think of what their logic was that they used to not bring him in makes you want to scramble your brains. But yeah, that's in the past, and they got a new kid, so okay.
Okay. So Joe. Now, I want to be real clear. I'm not knowledgeable enough to say Joe is better than Brady. What I'm saying is I hesitate to call Joe the second greatest quarterback who ever lived, meaning Brady's the first, although I think you can make a case for Elway too, but let's leave him out of it. Joe won 4 Super Bowls and never lost a Super Bowl.
Right.
Brady has lost the Super Bowl. That's
he's lost 3 Super Bowls.
3 Super Bowls. Joe never lost.
Yes.
And Joe came from behind to win.
Yes.
So I know that Brady did against,
Brady's great. We're not saying Brady's not great.
No,
Brady's great.
The other things about Joe, 2 things. Brady doesn't really move.
Right.
Joe he was a really good athlete. I think he was faster than you think he was. When he threw the pass for the catch, he ran right.
And when you watch that entire game, he made any number of throws on the move where you're like, whoa, this guy's surprisingly athletic.
Yes.
I mean, he could really move.
Yeah, he could really move.
Yeah.
And I think I've told you one time toward the end of his life, Bill Walsh had to give a talk about quarterback play. And he called me and he said, Lowell, I haven't watched these tapes in a long time. I was watching Joe and his voice got almost religious, like you're talking about an angel or something. And he said, every pass, Lowell, was exactly where it had to be.
Yep.
Every pass was exactly where it had to be. Now, I think here's one of them. I'm sorry?
Like he was an alien or something, right?
Yeah, he was just uncanny.
Yeah.
Finally, in a way, it's not fair to compare Brady and Montana because they're from different eras.
Exactly.
In boxing, you always say you can't compare fighters from different eras like Marciano and Ali. It's a whole other world.
Yeah.
So a couple of things. When Joe played, you could really hurt quarterbacks.
Yes.
He got hurt.
Yes, he did.
You could do that. You could hold wide receivers.
Yes, you could.
You could do those. So Joe's stats are not as good as Brady's or other people's. But if you were to say put him in the same era, which you can never do, so it's speculative, I think Joe's stats would have been comparable to Brady's.
I've done this exercise before. Back when I was with the Press Democrat a few years ago, it's some advanced math, but you look at what the average quarterback rating was in each era. When Joe Montana was a quarterback, the average quarterback rating in the NFL was 75. Now it's 92. So relative to the average, Joe was more above average than Tom Brady in terms of regular season numbers. And the thing about Joe is his numbers got better in the playoffs, which is no one does that. And he didn't have the longevity that Tom Brady had. That's the main thing that Brady has over Joe Montana is longevity, but that's a function of the rules.
Right. He got hurt.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, I can't really talk about Brady because I didn't cover him. I covered Joe, and I'm not being chauvinistic because I don't root for the Niners. And Joe and I know each other, but we're not really close. I mean, we're cordial when we see each other, but we're not close. He was just great. And I think there's a case to be made. Respectfully, that it's hard to decide between the two of them who's better. But boy, I'd like to have either one.
And there's one thing, Tom Brady couldn't have made the throw that led to the catch because he could never have been out there.
Right. That's very interesting.
And that's a big difference between the two. There was a little bit more that Joe Montana could do. They were both clutch. They were both accurate. Yeah, I would take Joe. It's an interesting argument. I think everyone's pretty much agreed that Tom Brady's passed him, but you have to look at the different eras.
Yes, that's really significant. Iggy, you said that was our last topic. I have another topic. Well,
we have a quick question, then we'll go to the last topic that you have, a bonus topic. If Mac Jones has a more successful rookie year than Trey Lance, will fans blame Jed? I don't know. The fans won't be happy. I don't know who they'll blame, but they'll not be happy if that happens. But I don't expect that to happen. I don't think Mac Jones is even going to play. All right, Dad, what's the last topic?
Well, it was one that Amin brought up last night. Mm-hmm. You see, he's a genius. He got me really thinking. And he asked us, is Kyle Shanahan a top 5 coach? I would like to go through that again.
Yes.
Would that be okay by you?
Let's absolutely do it. Boom.
So off the top of my head, I said, I don't think he's a top 5 coach. Let's name 5 coaches currently who we'd put ahead of him. And Iggy, let's try to do it. We'll go one at a time. I'll say based on the body of their work so far, Pete Carroll is ahead of Kyle Shanahan. That's 1.
Bill Belichick.
Belichick is 2. Andy Reid.
Sean Payton.
There are others.
John Harbaugh.
Is 5. Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin. These are all guys with rings. These are all guys that had their shot and didn't miss it, didn't lose.
Yes. Tomlin is 6. Who else, Iggy?
Sean McVay.
They're at least, you'd say.
Close, but Sean McVay's never had a losing season.
Okay, fair enough. Sean McVay. So now he's down to 8th?
Yeah, and I think if we're being honest, there's probably more guys you could put ahead of him. I mean, oh boy. Bruce Arians.
Oh, Bruce Arians. No question about it. He just won a Super Bowl. So now he's down to 9th.
9th. I think that's about right. And I think we could probably think of a couple more guys. But if you put him at 9th, 10th, 11th, that'd be about fair.
Okay.
Better than Cliff Kingsbury.
Let's say he sneaks in at the bottom of top 10 quarterbacks.
I would say so. That's about right. And he has potential to go higher because
he has potential.
Pete Carroll's about 70. Bill Belichick's about 70. They're going to retire eventually.
Yeah. But currently, going into this season, he's roughly 9th. He squeaks into the top 10. Unless there's someone really good that for example, he's a better coach than Gruden.
Yes, he is. He's a better coach than Gruden. I think he's a better coach than that guy in Green Bay, LaFleur.
Yeah. Yes.
So, yeah. We'll see if he's a better head coach than Robert Saleh.
Right. That'll be
very interesting.
That'll be very interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, I found that you and I like to rate things.
Yes.
I like to rate novels. I like to rate wine. It's an idiotic mindset, but it appealed to me what Amin said last night. And we may be leaving someone out. Otherwise, he's 9, which is great to be 9, but still, it's not top 5.
No, he needs to do more work and spend more time to get to top 5. He could be there eventually. He's still in his early 40s. And Bill Walsh, I don't think, became a head coach until he was 50. So he's got time, but not yet. Not yet. Winning a ring matters, I think.
Well, that's the whole point.
And Amin was adamant on this topic. He's like, he's under 500. You cannot be a top 5 head coach with an under 500 record. I think that's a good point.
I think it's a fair point.
He's only 5 games under. He could be over 500 by November or October. But until he is, no. But he's probably the most celebrated under 500 coach I've ever seen. And for good reason. He does have a lot of things going for him that football people see.
I think that's a really good way, what you just said, to end. That was very clever, what you just said. I like it.
Well, thanks, Dad. This was a great show. Love you very much. And I'll call you.
You'll call me in a minute?
Yeah, I'll call you.
Love you. This was fun, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
We'll be back next week. Thank you, everyone.